Good day, everyone. My name is Rudolph Manicarium, and you're listening to one of my many writings regarding the world of Rakara. Our world is filled with all manner of strange, confounded, and unique things. Today's topic, the Order of Crab, an unlikely group of heroes from the Jagged Coast. This is certainly one of the more unique topics we've covered, so please prepare yourself for a doozy of an adventure. Within the Imperium's southeast lies the Jagged Coast, a point of entry and trade for various sea-dwelling civilizations, including the former Triton kingdoms that lived far beneath the waters. But our story goes further, out here, to the tip of Imperial territory, where various fishing and pearl diving villages are located. The Jagged Coast sees incredibly harsh storms regularly, so only the most foolhardy and stubborn choose to live in such locations. But don't be fooled, there are at least a dozen well-established villages who do. Beachfront property, am I right, students? Well, during the Cataclysm, the Jagged Coast found themselves struggling to stand against the tide of demons. Their portals opened well off into the ocean and made getting close almost impossible. Sadly, the Imperial Wavebreaker's armada was stretched too thin across all of Imperial waters, and so had little to offer this territory. For the most part, it was evacuated and left to its own devices, so that the Imperium could focus its efforts elsewhere. About 16 years into the Cataclysm, the Imperial 39th Legion, the Roughnecks, arrived ready to clean up what they thought would be a place of ruins and leftover demons. Instead, they found many of the villages still standing, though the people were nowhere to be found. Suddenly, a portal opened up in the middle of the area they were investigating, ready to spit forth a new wave of demons. That's when they heard the sound. A series of whooping, shouting, and laughter as a ragtag group of knights, brawlers, and strange men came up from the sand. They rode forward atop giant coastal crabs the size of war horses, without fear or care, screaming that their land would, quote, not be tainted by non-believers, end quote. The demons that emerged barely had a chance to register where they were before a dozen crustaceans tore them apart with mighty claws, and the leader of this group then stood before the portal. He shouted, "Smite them! Smite them if they will not bend the knee!" To the surprise of the Legion, the crab's claws then physically grabbed the portal and began tearing it apart. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, usually a great deal of magic is needed to close these portals, or one must enter and destroy the source of its creation to close it. To physically grab a portal, which is pure magic and energy, is simply not possible for mortals to do. When the Legion attempted to make contact with them, more portals opened in the water. Without hesitation or even a moment to plan, these crab knights mounted their steeds and rode out to the sea. At least a dozen more warriors seemingly came up from the sands and charged, hollering and screaming that their crab god demanded blood. They fought, closing every single portal. Despite taking a handful of losses, these knights were unwavering in their fervor. It was a sight to behold, especially when the Legion saw their weapons and armor. These crab knights were covered in ramshackle gear made of whatever scrap they could find, and used a variety of items as makeshift weapons: harpoons, anvils tied to boards, nets covered in fishing hooks, cleavers, anything that one would find in a fishing village. Only their leader wielded a sword, but even that was a gift of the sea, made from a mix of coral reef, shark teeth, and a strange red metal. When at last all the portals were closed, After the Legion's assistance was provided, the centurion in charge, Oscilla, reached out to these crab knights, offering her thanks and requesting their name. The leader merely stared at her. He demanded, with considerable rudeness, if Oscilla knew the truth of their crab god. When she replied no, he laughed and said he couldn't trust a heretic. Without much else, these knights mounted their giant coastal crabs and rode off, screaming that there were more invaders to kill. Now, it is important to note that there are no imperial records of any sort of coastal crab god or crab-like deity, nor anywhere in the world, really. Still, reports would come in throughout the war effort of these holy men appearing from seemingly nowhere, whether from the sand or the water, and fighting with no sense of self-preservation or strategy. Just a collection of wild men throwing themselves at the demons until they won or were massacred. Yet, even if the latter occurred, they would still appear once more elsewhere. I actually had the privilege of being able to investigate these strange men, and it was quite the fascinating time. They had made a home for themselves deep within the cliffs along the jagged coast and cared for these giant crabs, worshipping them like gods. No matter how many losses they took in a battle, whenever they returned to their home base, their numbers were always the same, even if it was the same day as said losses. When I asked about this, I was merely laughed at and told I would not understand, that the crabs had not chosen me.
Brother, it is simple. Thou art not chosen. Thou know not what glory comes from thy noble crab. I weep, knowing thou will never transcend. But take heart, for thou have witnessed us, and thou art blessed.
Speaking to their leader yielded little to no results either. Despite my questions, the man either didn't want to or couldn't remember his age, when he'd taken charge of this order, where he was from. All he knew was, well, that the crabs were sacred and that demons were non-believers that needed to be punished. When I inquired about it, it was revealed that, at first, this order didn't care about the world ending at all, but the demons had foolishly taken their reclusiveness for weakness. A scouting party had destroyed one single egg in one of the Order's hatcheries within the first 6 months of the cataclysm. Yes, you heard that right, students. A single egg. Well, this couldn't go unpunished, and so the Order of Crab declared war, holding off the demons all those years along the coast until help arrived. Here is a helpful visual for just how the event of one egg's destruction went.
This is what you protect. This is what you worship. Oh, foolish human.
What hast thou done?
Beg for your life, and I promise I'll make your death quick. Don't, and suffer my wrath! Ha!
Non-believer! Heretic!
What? No, you're doing this wrong. You're supposed to surrender. Beg, plead for your life even. Do you not know what's in front of you?
I have failed my sacred duty. Forgive me, Crab God. I smite them in your name.
What? Where the fuck did all you come from?
Come hither, brothers! Let us use their eyeballs to play pool, and their blood to oil our abs!
Their skulls from my wagon.
Their skin from my rug. I want that was nipples for my wall!
Oh, shit.
Certifiably insane fellows is what they are. Still, no idea how they hide so well in the sand. It is strange indeed. They refuse to work with others. They worship crabs but don't have a name for their god. They appear seemingly from nowhere, and no matter how many losses they take, there are always more ready to join the fight. There is certainly some powerful magic that keeps them stocked with fresh bodies, but, Their attitude? Personally, I believe it's the toxic algae they eat and the hallucinogenic gases that fill the halls of their home that make them so, well, unhinged. But regardless, they were a happy accident that ensured demons could not spread deeper into the Imperium from the coastline. We owe our thanks to these crab knights, even if they had a tendency to also, well, to actively beat up or fight anyone that offered help if they didn't believe in their god. When the cataclysm was over, the Emperor himself reached out to offer these knights land and titles, but no one could find them. Their home had been abandoned. All was quiet, but there was still the odd report here and there of a handful of figures atop a giant crab, picking fights with whoever crossed their path. Win or lose, once the fight was done, they seemingly vanished into the sand or the water, screaming about their crab god. They are just one of Rakara's many, many unique mysteries. Whether they are a lost order, a strange cult, or simply a bunch of wildmen high off their butts, that is up to you to decide. I thank you for your time, students, and look forward to our next lesson. Until then, goodbye for now.